Good afternoon, everybody. I am Jim Welsh today here with Payroll for Construction. I want to start off by thanking everybody for carving out a few minutes today for this webinar where we will talk about, our payroll service, HR. We have mobile applications, just a lot of things that can overall help with payroll here. So as I go through this today, unfortunately, this is a listen-only broadcast. You can feel free to type in questions. Some I may answer right as you type them in. Others I may, wait till the end. But nevertheless, any question that is asked today, I'll make sure I answer. Just so you know, as I go through this, there's a lot to this stuff. So this is going to be kind of the 10,000 foot high level overview here. And it's encouraged for anybody, if this looks intriguing to them, to reach out afterwards, whether it's just you want costing or what we really recommend is a more personalized one-on-one live demo where we're talking with you and your team. You can stop, ask questions as we move along. So again, today, just that high level overview, and then we can always dig deeper if something like this lines up. Okay, so we'll start with just kind of who we are, what we do. So payroll for construction is like an ADP or Paychex, where behind the scenes, full payroll processing, checks, direct deposits, all the city, state, federal taxes, unemployment, W-2s, garnishments. Where we become a bit different is we go even further than that with payroll. Things like certified payroll, job costing, union reporting if you're a union contractor. And then, of course, one of the most important pieces is making sure we integrate this back into your QuickBooks or whatever you're using for accounting, because we got to have that back in there so that you can run your financials and profit and loss reports. So really, just a payroll service that understands complex construction payroll. And we do this in all 50 states. So whether you're the client who, hey, we have employees that live and work in one state, or if you have employees bouncing to different states, we keep you tax compliant. We make sure that we do all this stuff for you. And then we'll kind of show you a little bit of the system here in a second. Before I move on here, again, we have a lot of products here. The beauty is from our accounting software to our estimating, to our HQ project management suite, HR, our payroll service, and mobile time tracking. Rest assured, every one of these is geared towards nothing but contractors. So when you work with us across any of our products, if you're a contractor, we understand your business and your needs. So if anybody, again, has questions after this, they can reach out to me on any of these products. All right, so kind of year end, what you're dealing with. This is a reason why we do this now is that, hey, some weeks of payroll can be, easier obviously than others. You get to your quarter end, you get to your year end when you start dealing with, W-2s, Affordable Care Act stuff, year end bonuses and stuff like that. These are the things that really start to take up time. And after you come back from the holidays there, you really don't have much time. A lot of this stuff needs to be done by January 15th or W-2s January 31st. So it really creates a very stressful environment to start off every new year for people that are doing this payroll internally or through some type of service that doesn't understand their business. So this is where we kind of pitch, hey, make this the last year you have to deal with this. I mean, shoot, even though we're into the year, anybody who signs up and starts with us, we would get all of your historical data from wherever you're doing your payroll. We would get that into our system and service so that, again, once you move over to us this year, even though it may be mid-year, we are going to handle everything moving forward from the quarterlies to the W-2s to the Affordable Care Act stuff. So this is where you can push this off your plate to ours. But with that comes other things like certified payroll, union reports. You can't trade one off for the other. So the best thing with us is that we can give you all that. The construction-specific reporting, along with the basics of paying your employees and taxes like a traditional service would do. So this is where we become much different than the rest. So we'll actually jump in to talk about and show some of the reporting here in just a second. So this is what we'll start with is the actual payroll service. Again, I'll sprinkle in, at a point, I'll jump here to kind of show you we have some HR stuff, depending on if that's what you're looking for, where you can manage employees and onboard employees and stuff. But the main focus today will be kind of the actual payroll service, because if the service doesn't line up, some of these other products can stand alone, others can't. HR is bolted directly onto the service. We have a mobile application that can work standalone that for time purposes today, I won't be able to get into it. We have a couple different mobile applications, but the reality here is that, we like to talk to you one-on-one to see which one may fit. Each one's a little bit different depending on your needs. So we'll kind of stay focused on payroll and HR today. Okay, this will be the WorkMax. This will be the mobile solution that can stand alone. So if the service doesn't line up, but you're looking for mobile time tracking, this is a really good application that, again, you can reach out to me and we can discuss this much further. All right. So what I'll do here is just jump into the actual service. Now, I must make mention, Foundation Software, as it was on one of my slides. So Foundation Software is a full job cost accounting ERP solution that is meant to replace a QuickBooks or a Sage. Now, rest assured, you do not have to do that to use our payroll service. Our payroll service is standalone and can integrate with QuickBooks, Sage, and many other products. So don't be misled by, why am I not seeing something that says Payroll for Construction? A little bit of marketing cross-branding for us here, but we have thousands of clients nationwide who do not use our accounting software whatsoever. They just use our service, which is just bits and pieces, the payroll pieces of the accounting system, online where you can access your payroll, your historical data, your reports from any computer with internet access. So this is basically where, hey, we'll kind of go high level here. Again, I don't know my audience today as much as how many are union versus non-union, how many are multi-union or multi-state. So that's where those one-on-one demonstrations, we can really dig in and focus on how this could potentially work for your specific needs. So this here, we have a dedicated section for this. So if you are a union or prevailing wage contractor, we understand this. So we don't pretend to have every union or every prevailing wage agreement loaded in here, nor if you're a California contractor, would you want agreements from Ohio, Michigan, PA, New York. So we do rely on you as the client to say, Jim, here are my union or unions or my prevailing wage agreements, and then we can build these in here. So what these are really good for here is basically updating massive amounts of union members, setting effective dates for when this takes place so we don't have to remember or start and stop the payroll that week. We can keep this payroll moving no matter how many unions, no matter how many certified payroll reports you need. Just as easy if it was none of that or less of that. Also, if you're prevailing wage, we build your classes, the rates, and then we can build the fringes as well. So this is where we start setting this up to start taking away not just your year end, not just your quarter end tax stuff. Again, that's kind of behind scenes here that I'll get to in a second, but making day-to-day, week-to-week life easier when it comes to this complex payroll. So we can build all this out for you. We can set up your workers' compensation. We can import your employees in from wherever they're at now. Now, you have options. Some of my clients are small where, hey, Jim, I don't need an HR onboarding system for the additional money and just, I won't really use it that much. You can come in here just like you're used to with QuickBooks, ADP Paychecks, and add an employee at any time. However, if you did want to come through here and create an employee, this would send them a link where then they could onboard, where then they would fill out all of their information. You would manage their onboarding process electronically. You would be collecting signatures and W-4 and I-9 and EEO, VEVRA, work tax information. And then this would auto-create the employee in the system. And then the employees would even have an employee-facing side where they can go get their pay stubs. They can make edits to certain bits of information, right? But this is where I can share documents with them. I can say, hey, I want you to sign our drug policy, our PTO policy. So this really becomes kind of paperless communication with your employees. And then when they need to come into their profile and edit things, of course they could not edit their hourly rate or their employment status. That is for you there in the office. But this is where if, hey, maybe Donovan today is moving, wants to update and change his address, that's where you could do it. Then it would still come to you. So we got to be careful. Field employees can make mistakes. We're all human. We all can make mistakes. But we would never let what an employee does on their side of the fence just automatically update the record keeper here, the Payroll for Construction database, until somebody on your end said, hey, I've gotten a notification via email that employees made changes. I'm going to review that change. And if I say that change is okay, approve it, submit. Now that will actually be in the Payroll for Construction database and update in real time. So again, for anybody who's interested in this, it does a lot more: certification management and tracking, posting messages to groups of employees, time off requests and time off approvals and stuff like that. So this is where, again, for today's purposes and keeping this about 30 minutes and making sure I answer all the questions, this is just another solution that you could use with the service, or again, you do not need that portion of this to make this work. The main name of the game with the service is putting in jobs, putting in your time, whether it's, again, you enter it, or whether you use one of the different mobile app solutions we have, or if you're on a mobile app solution, most of them that can export to Excel, text, or CSV, we can import that data right in. So if you have certain products that you are happy with, we will do our best to make them work with the products we have. But again, knowing that we have a wide variety of products here. So one thing I'm going to point out in the job record, or a couple things I should say, is how important the job can be. Obviously, for job costing is the first thing you think of, but a job in our system can do a lot more than that. Now, you are seeing a lot of information that it looks like you need to fill out. You're not, if you're just using us for payroll, filling out 99% of this. You're doing that in your ERP system, and then we are pushing back your job costing to QuickBooks or whatever you're using. So at the highest level, a job is a job to cover costing. But if things start to change with this job, for example, let's pretend I'm an Oklahoma contractor, but this job is in Wisconsin, where when I send my guys and gals to that job, they need to report state income tax based on where they're working, because there's no reciprocal agreement between the state we're in and the state they're working in. This is how I can handle that without having to every week, for as long as this job goes, and I am putting time in here, without having to manually say, make sure these hours are taxed and withheld for Wisconsin. I put it on the job record. The employees are going to move. They're going to come. They're going to go. They're going to work jobs 1 through 5 in a week. This job is not going to pick up and leave Wisconsin and go over to Oklahoma. Certified payroll. This is how I get that. The whole system's built for mistakes. We know no matter how perfect the system is or how perfect you folks are in the office, there's going to be mistakes. So whether I check this box before I start coding time to the job or a week or month in, every certified will be there from day one, including no work performed. Last thing here is this tab. Now, again, this will depend. For my non-union contractors that have laborers, carpenters, operators, whatever the case is, the rates are here, the fringes are there. If you're paying this to the employee, fine, it'll be taxed. If you're putting it into some plan, we can handle that as well. If you are reducing any, hey, I already offer health, pay a portion of 401k, I can even in the employee's record place that hourly or that dollar amount per week in their record and have it reduce, as we call it, the fringe. If I'm union and I have employees that, well, hey, we're union local, let's say 127, but this job is in local 38, okay? This, if our rates are higher, it can use ours. But what this is saying is that we got to do something with this union when they touch this job here. And in this case, it's at least the benefits. A portion of the package, usually it's the whole package. But this is how, if their rates are higher and we need to use theirs and we need to report to their union based on their benefits, again, I'm controlling that by job. Okay. Somebody's asking, can jobs be separated by phase, such as some of the work is performed in one state, others finished in another? Yeah, so we have 3 things here. We have jobs, okay? That's the high level. That's the top of the pyramid. Then we have phases where, hey, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Then we have cost codes as well, where it's like, hey, okay, on job 1, basically, if I just need cost codes, if I just care about what they're doing, but what this person's asking is specific to, hey, that job, maybe bridge work, starts in state A, finishes in state B. So there are things can be done with, jobs, cost codes, phases. So things like that are very common here that we can address with you one-on-one, no problem. Okay, time. Again, I'm going to go in here and just enter a time card to show this works. But this is not the only way you have to do this. There are apps and things. But just showing it, to anybody who's not using a mobile app. You'd pick your employee, you'd have your active jobs here, you'd pick a job, you would assign hours here, and then as they crossed, I'm in a non-union environment, just an FYI here. Otherwise, you'd see union locals start popping up here. But this is where, as I code this employee, who in my system, his employee record says he makes $15 an hour for private work. So I don't have to touch taxes. I don't have to touch union. I don't have to touch their rate of pay or even overtime here. I can get to grab after 8 in a day or 40 in a week. But when I hit OK, it knows he went from private, pulled in the rate in his record. So prevailing wage, county 3 and county 1, where those higher rates will pull in. If I do have companies where, wait, what if this guy or gal changes, not to be confused with cost code, changes their trade? Well, if I change that, it's going to match to whatever that class on this job record is set up to be. So from multi-union to multi-trade to private to public mixes, we got you covered here. And then, of course, things like, well, hey, can I do reimbursements, per diem, PTO tracking? Yep, we can handle all that just as any standard service could. Now, payroll in here, this is where basically I can come in here and say, all right, I want to review the payroll before I submit it off. And this is where I can come in and run a report just to see. Now, whether those hours were entered by somebody on your team or whether those hours came over via one of our mobile apps or some other app, you're still going to be able to edit it and review it in here. So I could still come in here today and drill into any of these hours and make adjustments to hours, jobs, cost codes, phase, whatever I need. And then the nice thing with our reporting is, hey, certain times I need to see stuff by employee. Many other times I need to analyze by job. So every one of our reports has a criteria page that we can really fine tune, not just per company, but per individual user within the company, as you could have more than one person in here at a time. And then there's definitely different levels of security settings where, hey, if this person can see office and field, great. If this person's just responsible for field, we can hide the office from them. But this is where we'll start getting these reports set up the way you want them. That way you're just changing date ranges. You can run a report for the current week, or you could run it for day, week, month, year, back to the time you first started with us. And again, I can find out how much work came from cost code A versus B and stuff like that as well. Other things you can do is compute, or as we call it, calculate the payroll. And that's where I can start looking at what my taxes are going to look like. Well, these aren't my reports I'm using for workers' comp or union. I'll go to those in a second. But this is where basically I can just see what payroll checks here are going to look like. So while we are like an outsourced ADP or Paychecks, we are handling, processing your payments to employees and taxes and all that. We are not removing you so far from payroll like some of these traditional providers do. You still got to be able to access this stuff before and after payroll in real time. So you'll have access to this online to run this information any way you want. Now, also, what we can do here is we can do check, we can do direct deposit. There's portal, there's a couple different types. Again, if somebody says, we want full HR, Jim, let's roll through that. That would kind of be more this, where there is that self-service side and aspect to it. We have one for somebody who's like, Jim, I don't need something that fancy, but I certainly don't want to have you mail us direct deposit stubs and have to go get those out to job sites. Is there just a way they can go online and see just their pay stubs and how much PTO they have without touching anything? We have a product for that as well. So again, as you can see here, kind of hard to figure out what'll fit your company when you really can't, when we got an audience like this and you really can't jump in and interact, but that's where those one-on-one demonstrations really, really work out well, because then we can fine-tune what may or may not work for you. Then again, we can push data to QuickBooks, Sages, different products out there. And then you'd get your reporting from us. So if you needed like a workers' comp audit report, whether there's caps per class, per employee, or per earning type, you send us the policy, we'll set it up to calculate. They give you new rates, you send them to us, we'll update it for you. No problem. Okay. The other big ones are if you ever need EEO minority compliance, we can upload to the federal government, California Department of Fair Employment and Housing, or we have just a bunch of, different ones in here. When you hear these terms nowadays, certified payroll, EEO, minority compliance, monthly manning reports, though they all want the same information, it's all laid out a bit differently. You'll see, especially when I go to certified payroll here in a second, we have many different options. So, whether you need just kind of this mirror reporting, as some people call it, but even when you get to certified, I have two different options, but within each option, there are many, many more options. So, for example, some folks are still dealing with paper. So, depending on where you're at in the country, as you can see, for time, I'm not going to click on every one of these, but as I go through, this is all we do here, folks. So, this is where if I needed a piece of paper, I can PDF, print, Word, Excel, this information. So if I just need a piece of paper, I can get it. If you are somebody in especially California, but many other states we're seeing this in, that they are telling you to go to a website, well, great. The piece of paper is nice, but whether you're using a mobile app or entering your time into here, that means you're going to have to do it again. And, per job that they're requiring you to go there for. With us, if you're using California DIR, LCP Tracker, ePrism, EBO, eMARS, you name it, this is where instead of taking that piece of paper, hand keying it into their system, this is where basically I come in, I put in the date I need it for, I hit report, doesn't look appealing, but when I hit close, create file now, yes, and then it would create a file for you to upload directly to them. So even, whether some parts of the year you have 20% prevailing wage work and other parts it's 50 or 60 in the summer or 70, your payroll shouldn't be taking you any longer when you're with us because of the reporting in here. And then again, job costing and stuff like that. What I like about our costing in this report too is this Rick here makes $15 an hour on private work, so 40 times 15 gets our 600. When we calculate everything, and I mean everything else you are paying as the employer, I can very easily see what does a $15 an hour employee truly cost me to the penny all in with my labor and my burden. Again, we're taking these costs and pushing your job costing back to your accounting system, because no matter how great the job cost reports we can give you here are, which we have tons and they are great, reality is there's material, purchase order, subcontracts that are happening in your ERP system, and nobody wants to get the full picture by bouncing between two different platforms. So you can still get that big picture, that total job cost in your accounting system, and then lean on us for the daily transactions, the employees and stuff like that. And then lastly, I'll show just a generic union report here that the employees, I can add their work class here. I can break out regular and overtime here for the hours, but their gross, total into each benefit, and then a summary page there that will, be for you to send them the payment. Now, again, we're not paying workers' comp. We're not paying union. We're paying employees and taxes. So when you start thinking, what will we pay versus you? Any insurance or benefit, we are just the tracking reporting mechanism. So you have reports for audit and payment purpose, and it gets captured in job costing, of course. Any payments going to employees or taxing agencies, city, state, federal, we got you covered there. And we do offer to handle like traditional providers, kind of the in-between garnishments like child support, alimony, back taxes. Those are the things we would be handling there for you. And then, again, they could get their pay stub through this portal where they can go in and say, hey, and we have another one as well, but this is where they can get previous W-2s. They can see their pay stub in here. So really just a wide variety and a range of different options we have that, again, after this, I'm going to open it up here in a second for questions, and I'll pop my information back up again. That way anybody wants to reach out. If you're just curious price, we don't hide that at all. Let me know your pay frequency, your average employee count. And then again, if you're, hey, I'm interested in the full HR, or I'm interested in one of the mobile apps, that's where we may need to connect to see, hey, do you just need kind of our basic HR or our full HR? Do you need a mobile app that's capturing their face, capturing their start-stop time? Or do you need more of a simplistic one where it's, hey, I just want my foreman to go in and say, these 10 people were on job one doing this for 8 hours on Monday. That's where, again, we won't hide that cost from you, but I get hesitant to quote something when it's like, hey, I could throw the low one out, I could throw the higher one out, but without knowing what would probably be best for you, that's where we can connect and do, one-on-one call or demonstration. So if anybody wants to start typing in questions now, I'll start answering them as we go. Yeah, that's a great question. Somebody has asked, what about like layoff or termination checks? Now, again, you got to be able to keep moving with payroll. You can't have a back end third party processor that is making life better in certain areas, but making it worse in others where you're having to wait on them. Whether it's termination, whether it's layoff, payoff, some of these unions or most have very strict rules that, hey, you're letting this guy or gal go today. I don't care if your payroll date's Friday, it's Wednesday. You need to pay them before they walk off the job. So at any point in time, because we are powered by parts of a full ERP accounting system, you would have the ability to do a bonus check in-house, a correction check, a layoff termination check. So those things that, again, sometimes you get handcuffed on with these other traditional providers because they don't understand, why are you doing a payroll check when it's not your pay date? We understand all that. Okay. Yep. Somebody's asking. So just to be clear, I can post hours that are linked to jobs and also have activity codes where I can track totals of activity codes across all jobs. Yeah, 100%. So again, activity codes, item codes. Now the thing the other person was talking about was more probably going to end up being phases if we have a one-on-one conversation with that. So that we don't see that as much, but we do see that when you start spanning states. But this is where, for that person who asked, here's where, okay, this is job 12. You posted these hours and dollars to these activity codes, as you call them. And that's where if I needed more detail, whether I wanted to drill into one or that, I can come in here. And then I can see those payroll entries of the employees that made up those activity codes. Somebody's asking, can you process same-day ACH direct deposit for union layoffs? We cannot. That is one thing that, hey, even though I can allow you to print same-day, what our clients are going to do if that's the case is, hey, we're going to be the calculator. We're going to come up with the net pay, and you can do it on your end in real time. Then you mark it as an in-house payment, whether it was a check or you would, though, feed from your bank to the employee's bank, because then you're not getting charged another payroll processing run, which really starts to up the cost on any of these cases. But also, we just can't turn it around that quickly. So you would use us as the calculator, and then you would be the one that says, hey, my bank ACH this much from my bank to this employee's bank account would be the only way you could do a same-day ACH. Any other questions? Again, not that this is the end. You can always, you think of something afterwards, you want cost or want to schedule a live demonstration, let me know. We'll get something set up. For anybody who's not interested in the payroll service, again, the only thing here today that if you are just looking for a mobile app to work with like a QuickBooks or, whatever accounting system you're on, WorkMax is a great solution that, again, you can email me on and I could just say, hey, here's some information, some costing on that. Just be clear to let me know, hey, Jim, not interested in the service or HR, but this I would like to learn more about. Just let me know. I'll get you guys whatever you need. And again, I want to thank everybody so much for their time here today. If there's anything else I can do from you, I'd be happy to help. Thanks and have a great day.